One Cone here, and jumping right back into the fan build competition here in Automation, where you guys sent in competitors for the Vector Intrigue Rallye. And we're gonna go right on back into things and look at the ambush. This is an entry by Hazewindog or Michael, and this car, he says, is a more European take on the Intrigue, which certainly had its European influence already, but I can see pretty much exactly what you mean. Now, to be honest, this is not exactly an era or genre of car that I know too terribly much about. However, I do quite like the shape of this car. I honestly did not think this style of morphing would work with the design, but it actually kind of does with this car. And I like to think that this is all one big hatchback, because that would just make a lot more sense than this little tiny trunk. And then, let's see, we have a very nice grille that, again, is pretty similar to the style that I ended up with. However, I think there's a reason for that. It just kind of works. For this kind of flat front end, it fills it in without being too busy. So there's a reason that this design seems to work. If I had one suggestion, it would be to not mix the black or plastic, the non-shiny, with the chrome grills. That just looks a little bit awkward. I personally would make it either all chrome, all matte or black finished, or at least have some kind of theme where there was a nice mix of the two. But right now, the chrome one just looks a little tanked in there. Just a little thing, nothing big. And then, yeah, the back is nice. It's simple, but it works. I like that the trunk kind of extends outward and slants back. So, yeah, I guess that pretty much sums it up. Alright, well, it certainly looks the part, but let's see what it has to offer underneath the skin. And it looks like we got a straight 6 in here with some smaller carbs. Are they single barrels? They could be. That could be our first instance of single barrel carbs. But let's first look at the statistics, and it has a 30 drivability, 25 sportiness. Those are pretty well matched and pretty good numbers overall, even on their own. It has a nice safety at 30. That's something we haven't seen a whole lot of in many of these cars, is that sometimes the safety aspect gets a little left behind, which does hurt it in the markets. And then the weight, even with that, is down at 1,800 pounds. Let's look at the design tab. Ooh, a little bit of a crash there. Alrighty, well, we have a little bit of a problem with this. There is actually a problem apparently with the modded body of this car that makes the design tab not work. I actually contacted Hazewindog himself to see if he was having the same problems, and he is. And then I contacted Caswell, the developer, and he says basically there's nothing he can do about it. There's just a problem with this mod, so watch out when you're using this car. If you can't use the design tab, it's probably not working. However, it's still very doable that we could review this car, and we still get all of the detailed stats and everything like that. So I should have enough information to figure out everything, and we can actually see that it's McPherson front and appears to be semi-trailing arm in the back, so that's good to know. And then the engine, we have pretty much everything we need to know up here. It is a 2.6 liter inline 6 single overhead cam, and it is indeed single carb, 2 single carbs, 18 valve. So it's a pretty good engine, and it makes 160 horsepower. So that's basically all we really need to know off of the design tab, so we'll just pretend that we did go look at it. On the old test track, 0 to 60 in 7.5, not too bad. 15.78 quarter mile is a little bit slower, but it does seem to have a less horsepower engine in it than some of the other ones we've looked at. 2.6 liters is not very big, so that's doable. 1.17, sorry. 1.7 Gs would have been great. 1.17 Gs is still pretty good, and then 1.08, no downforce on this car. Like I mentioned earlier, the drivability and sportiness are good, Lots of a penalty on the understeer oversteer. I'm going to assume that is understeer, and safety is quite good. I was happy with that. 30. It's not super high, but it's, you know, it's up there. And let's look at the markets, where we see that it is track premium, track, and track budget. Pretty familiar things to us by now. And pretty good scores, especially in regular track. So that is good. It has an $11,600 price tag that is with no markup. So I am actually going to mark it up, say 5%. And I can see that it is still affordable and still desirable. So even if it was going to be sold for, you know, a little bit of a profit, it would still be desirable. One last thing to do, see what its time around the track is. So it does it in a 1 minute 38, which isn't the fastest time we've seen. It is a couple seconds slower than the Rallye, the Intrigue Rallye that is. However, its time I think would be better in a short course kind of situation, a very tight technical course. This seems like a car that would make a really good autocross car from what I've seen. So this car does the track in 1 minute 38 seconds flat. That is not the best time we have seen. It's not the worst time we've seen. And I really think that this car would do better in a situation where the track was much tighter. The airfield track is a pretty fast flowing course in most places, and this car seems like it would be better around the short kind of technical kind of sections. Would probably actually be a really good autocross car. So that's something to keep in mind. Alright, there we go. There is the ambush, and I really like it. It's a shame that it doesn't seem to be working in the design tab, but I think we pretty much got all the information we needed. I really like this one. I like the design of it. It's simple, but, you know, clean and effective. I mean, if I was going to do something with the body, I think I maybe would have gone a little bit more aggressive with the flares, if possible. And the way the back slopes down, I don't know. It's begging for a lip or a spoiler. But that is about it. Oh, and I'm not entirely sure how era correct these NACA ducts are on the hood, but they look pretty cool. Alright, thanks for your entry, Hazewind Dog, and we'll see how you do. We got 6 more cars to do today. Next up, we have the Cryan Industries Crusader Rallye, and right away, I like the way this car looks. I actually don't have a username for this one. Well, I kind of do, but it's only your email address, and I don't know if you want me to share that. So, we'll just say it's Cryan Industries car, and right away... It's a looker. I really like the front of it, and that's interesting because I really tried to make this kind of style work on my own cars and did not succeed. It does, however, kind of blend a lot of modern elements in with some of the earlier design. Not that that's necessarily a killer, but some of the stuff just doesn't really appear to be era correct. And, you know, what I mean is mostly the hood vent. That's a pretty modern design there. Not to say that you couldn't design that on your own in this era. And then the smaller headlights again, you know, that's just little things like that kind of take away from the immersion, I suppose. The back looks really good and good in terms of the era correctness. It's kind of what I meant about the last car. I really like this wing on the back of this. It fixes that wedge shape that these era of cars had. Man, the wheels look really tiny on this body, don't they? However, I do like the flares and the way it looks. Also, I think one of my favorite touches is this chrome lip that I don't think many people would think would work, but with the big chrome bumper on there, it really has a nice balance to it, and I like it. So let's look at the design of the car's underpinnings, and looks like we got ourselves a V6 again. And this time, what do we have on there? 2 4-barrel carbs. I don't know why I have such a problem saying that. Yet it only makes 131 horsepower. Aha, because it's very, very small. 1700 cc. That is minuscule. That is a very, very small V6, especially for 1967. would sound really cool, especially with single overhead cam, 24 valves on this guy, 11.4 to 1 compression. This is definitely a pure race bred engine. Looks like we got some nice, not long tube, but some nice shorty headers on there. Car only weighs 1,800 pounds. Yeah, this thing probably gonna be a little rally rocket. Even though it's not super high power, I really like these high-strung small V6s. Not really sure how it's going to work with this carbureted setup, but we will see. And a drivability of 45, that's very good. Sportiness of 20, I think I would like to see that up a little bit higher for a car like this, but that's not a bad score. One thing this car has that some of the others have not is that it actually has some comfort to it. And that's 19.1. It has prestige at 21. It has safety at 38. And its total costs don't look too terribly high. So this is a good, well-rounded car. That's nice to see. There's an interesting choice. That's something we haven't seen before, is handmade aluminum panels. So that will definitely add to the cost. Let's go to the test track and 8.3 to 60. It's not the fastest car we've seen, but it's still very acceptable. 16.5 quarter mile. It's certainly not a drag racing car. But with a 1.18 cornering Gs at 34 and 1.22 at 122. A lot of downforce on the rear of this car. That's pretty stout. So we'll see what kind of time it puts down. That is a good sounding little engine. Surprised at how short it revs, but you know, that's kind of the limitation of these older engines. And it does a time of 1 minute and 39 seconds, obviously due to the fact it doesn't have quite as much power as the other cars we've looked at that have better times. Again, a good, probably autocross or short course car, road rally, something like that. Still probably a very fun car to drive. Maybe just a little bit more towards the sport side, maybe towards the European Japanese kind of approach, rather than the brute kind of pony car approach that you see in the Intrigue Rallye and some of the other cars. Market-wise, totally agrees with everything I just pointed out. Light sport premium, light sport, and sport budget. Very good in all of these as far as the desirability, or the competitiveness goes. That, I think, is a really important thing when you consider that the price is $13,800. So, I mean, that's not terribly out of range with what we've been looking at. It is, however, significantly cheaper than you saw with the Intrigue Rallye. So, if this car had a home, it would actually be under the Intrigue Rallye. Like, if you couldn't quite step up to afford that, this would be a perfect substitute, I think. And I mean, I know the theme of the fan build competition was to build a car that was in the spirit of the Intrigue Rallye, and this car does that. It is in the spirit of the Intrigue Rallye. It just does it with a different kind of genre of car. Just one notch below in the pricing and size, and that's not a problem to me. You still did a really good job of kind of emphasizing the aspects I wanted to see out of these cars. So good job. Next up we have the Dominator. Didn't we just have the Crusader? Now we have the Crusader and the Dominator? You guys and your creative names. How do you do it? This is an entry by none other than GT1 Cooper himself with the Datsun body. The other body I said would probably be prominent. So let's see what he's done to maybe uniquify this. Oh, that is a unique looking body. Does not have the headlight cutouts. Pop-up headlights, but with pass-through small fog lights. Triangle indicators on the side. Cool vent. I don't think I've seen this grill. Is it a grill? Is it a vent? I don't know. It's a cool look though. I like that a lot. the whole front. I mean, it's very sleek and like sharp looking. That's a good looking car from the front. I haven't seen the back too much yet. The bump in the hood is pretty large, so what he's done is shrunken the body like as far down as it would go, and then added the hood scoop in there to kind of give it some engine clearance. And then on the sides we have some vents. Looks like we have some vents in these quarter panels. That's a little over the top, I think, for a front engine car, but I don't know. Well, I'll let it slide. Looks like we definitely have some kind of slick hidden door handle situation. That's pretty neat. I would be curious to see what kind of technology you've put into this there, Mr. Cooper, to accomplish this. Please let us know your secrets. Ooh, the back. Oh, that's nice. The bar across the taillights. It's kind of Challenger-ish, but that's nice. God, he is always so good with these fixtures. There's no doubt about that. Then there you got two other grills in there. Oh, that just really works. And then my favorite lip spoiler. This is a nice looking car. And we got the side indicators, as it should. Gosh, everything works. I like the tailpipes being inset. And we got another tag. Just very well detailed all around. I hope this car has the underpinnings to match its looks, because it is a looker. So, let's look. Sportiness 33, or sorry, drivability 33, sportiness 37. Yikes, that's really good. The drivability being lower definitely makes it track car ready. Comfort is low, very low with 8.2. Who cares? Prestige 19.3, that is good. Safety 34, good, you didn't forget about safety. This is the bigger body. Like I said at the beginning of this, like last episode, this body, it envelops a different kind of sports car. There's the small, practical, square body, sedan style, and then there's the long sports car two-seater. You know what I mean. It's kind of, there's just a difference between them. It's like comparing a Corvette to a Chevelle. It's like comparing a Corvette to a Nova, I guess would probably be the better way to look at it. And this just kind of fits more to the Corvette side of things. It's not totally out of the realm of what this kind of car should be, though. So it still works. It's still well within, I think, the theory, or it's still well within the theme that we're going for. The design is a 3.7 liter inline six. Talk about heavy. That thing is going to be huge, and it's going to dominate the engine bay and probably make this thing quite nose heavy. And it sure looks like it, with twin 2-barrel carbs on there. Some nice long tube, no, just regular shorty tube headers. And double wishbone front, double wishbone rear. So clearly not set up to go to the drag strip. Steel and steel. That's a change from what we've seen previously. Probably to keep the cost down, and it pays for it a little bit in weight, but has 250 horsepower, 258 horsepower to, deal with that. 4-speed on the gearbox. Looks like some very wide tires. I think this is going to be a pretty stout little car. Well, pretty stout big car. On the test track, 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds. That would be one of the fastest cars on the street for this era. No doubt about it. Definitely, as I was mentioning it, this definitely falls more into the Corvette side than I think it does into the Intrigue side. I would actually like to see this car go up against a, C2 Corvette. That would be cool. 140 miles per hour top speed, 14 3/4 mile, fast car. 1.22 on the skid pad, 1.18 at speed. 57.42, that's not terrible. I was a little worried it would be worse than that. Let's do this first. Yowza, 131.87. That is definitely the fastest time we have seen so far. And it does that but that time doesn't necessarily mean this car is going to be the winner of the contest or anything like that, because although it is a good time, it's also a different kind of car. It's a different aspect. It's a different approach to building a sports car. And when you're building a car like this, you definitely have a much higher potential ceiling, so it's expected to reach that. And it very well is. And then in the markets, track premium, 112 competitiveness, 94%. 94% affordability. 108 on track and 76%. Does very well in all of the sports categories, even over there in hyper. But note that it doesn't do it necessarily as well in track budget, or actually it just isn't very affordable in track budget. It's a little less affordable in track and light sport premium. It's a little less affordable. It's still an extremely, extremely desirable car, and it's doing that with a desirability penalty of 2% because of the body. So very impressive. Label me impressed. $12,566 is the price with a 3% markup, so it is profitable. So it goes without saying at this point, this is an impressive beast of a car. It's affordable. Actually, I forgot to write down the price. 12,566. It's affordable, extremely high performing, but then again, its drawbacks are that it's not. Now, this is drawbacks to me in this competition, not necessarily drawbacks to the market or drawbacks to the car. It's a little bit more than what we were doing with the Intrigue Rallye. That is a car that it's practical. Not that this car is completely impractical, but it's small, it's nimble, and, kind of autocross ready. It's the Miata versus this is the RX-7. That's the kind of comparison I would draw between the two. They both do things really well and are both set up to be good track cars, just in very different ways. So, although this is a great car and an awesome build, good job to you, Cooper, the only thing that might hold it back is drawing the comparisons to the theme of the original builds. So, there's got to be a balance there, and that's just something I'll have to consider. Next up, we have an interesting entry here from the Real Maxis, and this one is actually themed within our theme competition here. So what he has done, and I read through his email already, which is a little bit lengthy because it describes exactly what he was going for. I will not be reading that out loud in the video here, solely because I don't want it to kind of skew what you think of this car versus the other ones. But to just kind of touch on what he was doing is that this is basically a recreation of the BMW E9. So basically what he has done is, I believe, taken the BMW E9 or BMW 2800 CS and done essentially a recreation of it in automation. So of course that introduces a bunch of limitations. You guys, if you've been around a while, you know that I used to do a lot of recreations myself. And it's a difficult thing to try and recreate real-world cars, so it's going to have his own, touches into it. He did a very good email describing, at the length of detail that they put into this car, and that this is a premium car, that they have, forged parts in the engine, quality boosts all over the place, so odds are, just off of saying this, you can probably guess that this is probably going to be a little bit more of an expensive car. Honestly, this is probably going to be pretty good competition for Coopers. I did read your email, and it was very well written, even though you said sorry for your English because it's not your native language. Don't worry, it's still better than mine. So, let's get to it. Styling-wise, obviously, the restrictions are obvious, is the body does not look basically, I don't want to say it doesn't look anything like the original. It certainly pays its tributes to that, but even without that, if I had not been told that this car was a recreation of that, or was inspired by that, I would have loved the design of this car. This is a very cool take on this body, which is actually the same body we just saw just done much differently. I like the front. I like the use of these headlights inside of like the housings like that. The grills line up perfectly, even on this little tiny bit of nose. You got the side indicators there. Is there front indicators? Yes, there are front indicators. And then in the back, this is kind of a strange back end. This is obviously a convertible. It's a little bit interesting back here with the way a lot of these angles just kind of end, and it's like they were producing this car as a big tube, and somebody came along with a knife and chopped off the back end. It's a difficult one to design. So the back is pretty simple, but it works. The back I'm not in love with. Overall, it works pretty well. Alright, now looking at the details of the car, it looks like we have a drivability of 34, sportiness at 25. Those are nice and even. Comfort 7.4, prestige 14.4, safety 30. These are pretty familiar stats to us. They actually, they're maybe a little bit lower than we saw in Cooper's car. Production cost 7,000, weight 2,300. Again, that's pretty similar. Looking at the design, it looks like McPherson strut in the front, semi-trailing arm in the back, so that is a little bit different. Should do a little bit better on the drag strip, or, wheel spin issues. We have single barrel carbs, 2 of them. Smaller engine, 2.7 liters and 162 horsepower. Getting good power out of it with a single overhead cam setup. Nothing too crazy there. And I believe this was designed to be replicating exactly what BMW did, and he said that this was very close to what they did. So that's all obviously very realistic. Steel chassis unibody with steel panels on the body. On the test track, it does 0 to 60 in 8.6, quarter mile in 16.5. That's a little bit slower than I was expecting. Top speed of 121. It's not a super powerful car and is kind of heavy, so I guess I should have expected it. 1.12 on the cornering, 1.09 at speed. And let's see the track time. 139.82. That is also maybe a little slower than I expected. In the markets, it does convertible sport budget. That's something we've never actually seen because, well, we've never had any more convertibles. We've never had any other convertibles. Does okay in track and does okay in track premium. It's not really standing out in any of these. It is quite affordable of a car. I mean, $12,000. It's one of the cheaper cars we've seen. Interesting that it's still kind of the same price as the last car we saw. But I would say it's struggling a little bit in the markets department. Now, this goes with saying that this car was theme built within a theme. So the Real Maxis here really put himself into a tough situation trying to stick to doing a recreation to a car that loosely fit into the Vector Intrigue Rally's theme build. So, there's a lot of challenges to this build to begin with. So some of these markets may actually not be fitting it perfectly. But overall, the build of the car is very good, and I do think it does fit into the theme pretty well. And you brought up a good point that BMW did indeed make a car in this era that fits into, my cars, Vector's cars territory that we may not have expected. Interesting that this car seems to be pretty affordable, even though I have a feeling the BMW was not quite so affordable during its time. So I'm not 100% sure why that is, but still, like I said, a very good build. However, it does make it really hard for me to compare it to the other cars with the recreation aspect of it. I do really appreciate all of the effort you put into it. I know first-hand experience just how hard doing recreation stuff is, and I think you've done a really good job with that. So you took a recreation, you made it a little bit your own, and I think we ended up with a car that is pretty competitive within the field here. Next up, it looks like we have the Journey Rallye. That's a funny name. Rallye. And this guy is done by PC Kelly, also known as Dudacious, I believe. I don't know. This is fun, getting to hack up everybody's names. not really. I'm sorry. This is an interesting body, one we've seen before, maybe. And, well, the front, I have to say, you at least have the first car that kind of makes me laugh. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's just so sad. I mean, hey guys. I'm sorry. I know this is a tough body. This nose has such a weird shape to it that when you try to do like a flat front end, it looks like this. Like many versions of my car had this same kind of depressed look to them. And well, I guess he decided to go full depressed with this one. It's not a bad look. It's not ugly. It's just I don't know, when you go look at the side, you go, yeah, that's a sporty looking car, and then the front comes around, and it's just like, hey everybody, I'm a car. Good times. But the back is good. I really like the back. A little bit of details here with the trims of the grills acting as little trim pieces, and then we have taillights with indicators and reverse lights. Again, a car with no tailpipes. I like the wing, or the spoiler, I should say. I tried to make that guy work on many cars and didn't succeed, but you've done very well with that. And then, other than that, I don't have too much else to say about the body. Let's look at the underpinnings. 36 drivability, 26 sportiness, no comfort to speak of, decent prestige, 11.1. It's a tough error for prestige, trust me. Safety 33, good, didn't forget about that. Total cost, very low. That's something to keep in mind. This could be a car that is significantly cheaper than the stuff we've looked at. In the design category, oh, interesting. Have you seen what I've seen yet? I'll leave it for last. We have an inline 4, 3.1 liters. So a huge inline 4, and it looks the part. It is a big old inline 4. And it has a 4-barrel carb on there, 9.101, 4,900 RPM redline, 185 horsepower. So it's a truck motor, and it should be a truck motor because with that McPherson strut and semi-trailing arm rear, no, with that longitudinal 4x4 setup, yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit trucky. Let's see if he was able to make it work. You guys know that I tried and failed, but let's see if he's actually made a rally car. On the track, it gets 0 to 60 in good time because of that 4-wheel drive, or 4x4 really, 7.7, and a 16.14 quarter mile is still respectable. Weight balance is okay, good handling, lots of downforce in the rear, with a 1.13G and a 1.14G on the higher speed section. Overall, those are all pretty good. Actually, a little bit better than I was expecting, to be honest. Let's see what it does around the track. I'm not sure that this is perfectly what this car is set up for, but it'll be interesting to find out. Sounds like a big inline 4, doesn't it? Track stats, 140. I don't think that is the slowest car we've seen. It is not. It is on the slower side, but with the 4x4-ness of it, I feel as though it's probably going for a little bit different market. And then with the markets, it actually is. I am surprised. It's a track car still. Track premium, track, and track budget. So using that four-wheel drive pretty effectively to make it a track car. And it actually retains pretty good scores in the rest of the sport kind of categories. Muscle, sport budget, light sport, fun premium, family sport, and pony. So a good, well-rounded car. Cheap, $10,200 with a profit. Good to know, good to know. Interesting car. I would like to see the detailed stats for something. Off-road 23.4. That's a pretty good stat there. It's not... I wouldn't say it's overly to the rally side of things, but it's probably a good start for a rally car, huh? So that's cool. Now, granted, take in mind that rally cars in this era, pretty much all rear-wheel drive. All-wheel drive doesn't come into play until your kind of Group B era. But still, really cool car. And props to you for making the four-wheel drive thing work. And at a pretty good price, 10,000. It's significantly cheaper than the Intrigue. And what did we pick last time? We picked the Magpie. It's cheaper than that even. It's cheaper than the Volante or Volant, whatever it was. I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce anything anyway. But yeah, good, affordable sports car that could be used for either trekking or entry-level rally. A lot of different things. I would say the only thing that maybe holds me back is the sad front end. But still, a good job, and props to you for pulling off the 4x4 thing. I know I had no luck with it, so yeah, once again, good job with that. I just want to be loved. Next up, we have the Launch SS 4.7. This is by Colton, and this body has been taken to a whole new place. Looks like we're having ourselves a muscle pony mini car. I do like the front end. It is kind of, as I just hinted, a little bit mini-esque, but it does work for this body, and it has that European flair. We got our nice classic side vents, and the back is somewhat simple but somewhat complicated at the same time. Just, normal fixtures, but is still kind of on the busier side. Hey. That's my badge. Don't use my badge. I'm just kidding. I like the spoiler. I like the quad pipes. It's not too intricate of a design, but I think that works for this body. And if you go too crazy with it, it gets way too busy, way too quick. I think I would have maybe liked to see a lip on the front of it, but overall it works. It works. The shape of it is... It's not too extreme, but it works. It kind of keeps the proportions okay for it, so that's good. We have a drivability of 28.8, a sportiness of 23.4, close values, but a little bit lower than what we've been seeing. However, the comfort is significantly higher at 16.1, so that tells you right there that this is a car that you can actually kind of drive every day, instead of just something that would be track and weekend. The total cost is a bit high at $9,000. We'll see what the total cost of the car is. Safety is good, prestige is good. The weight's kind of high for a car this small. I have a feeling that's due to a large engine. Because it has a large engine. Cast iron 4.7 liter, V8 crossplane, overhead cam as well, making it a pretty large 4.7 liter engine. 231 horsepower. We'll get that weight moving just fine. 3-speed manual box, steel and steel. So there's your weight. McPherson front, double wishbone rear. So a pretty trackable setup car. An interesting combination. This is kind of a sports car exotic underpinnings to a muscle car engine in kind of a British small car body. So a lot of different things going on here. It has a quarter mile of 14.8. Standing kilometer isn't giving a value, which I find to be odd because it should definitely be able to do that. Unless it's got too much lift in the front and it's pulling a, Mercedes down the Mulsanne. I'm not sure, but that's here nor there. Top speed is 109, so it's definitely a little limited in its top end, but very quick to 60 and pretty quick in the quarter mile. On the track, it does it in pretty quick. Forgot to stop you again. 133.57, so a really quick car around the track. And in the markets, unsurprisingly, track premium, track, and muscle seem to be its strong points. Very affordable in track premium, but not totally competitive. It's getting there, but it's not quite there. Pretty decent in track as well. Seems like it might be a tough car to sell. It's probably just a little bit too pricey. Like I was saying, there's a lot of exotic underpinnings to this into kind of a kind of a sportier body than I think it's trying to be. Um, Maybe simplified suspension and even a simplified engine. You could probably get pretty close to as fast as this car is for a significantly better bargain. 17,200 without any profit is kind of pushing it, I think, for this market. So I think this car would probably be better either, like I said, simplifying it for track or going further muscle with it. If you went, solid axle rear and a little bit better trans setup for drag racing, really good wheel spin value, it'd probably be a really good muscle car. I think that's maybe where some of this car's, confusion is adding up to confusion for the buyers too. So then we have the launch. It is a rally-ish muscle car, kind of searching for its home, I think. It just needs a little bit more clarity as to which direction it's going. I think you were definitely trying to build it within the theme. You understood what we were going for. It did very well around the track. And you guys will notice that I didn't say I was going to look at how the track was, or how it did around the track, because I knew if I said that, everybody would just build fast cars around the track. And that is not how car companies would build a car in 1967. They would just build a fun car, and then if it happened to be faster on the track, that was just a happy accident. And some of them have worked out. This one's certainly very fast around the track. I'm just not sure it's drivable enough around the street, and that kind of shows in the markets. Still, good job with the car. I think you stayed with the theme pretty well, and that means that we now have just one car left to look at today. Lastly for today, we have the Lintang Sport, and this is by Skyboy 19ID. And once again, we're going with this body, and once again, it's kind of Datsun-ish looking. However, I do really like the front end. Circle headlights, I think, work out pretty well. Circle pop-ups, that is. And then a similar theme as we've seen before with the lights underneath. The square ones in this case, and I think these actually maybe work a little bit better than we saw on Cooper's car. I like the grills in the front. Yeah, it's hard to make this car not look good. It's a good looking car. Then in the back we have kind of a little bit of a Corvette-ish look to the back of it. I like the duckbill spoiler pushed up the deck. That's a nice touch. It's something to make it stand out. The taillights are obviously more modern than are probably possible on a car like this, but we'll suspend our belief that these are LEDs and they're just regular taillights, in which case they still look pretty good on this car. Nothing else much to say about the body. It's a good looking car, maybe just not the most unique design. I do like the duckbill up the deck though. So let's see what it does as far as performance goes. 41 drivability, that's very good. 31 sportiness, that's also pretty good. 20 comfort, very good. 19 prestige, very good. 31 safety, pretty good. Weight 2,000, pretty good. And a little bit low in the practicality, that's something I've kind of been keeping my eye on. Expensive bugger, 99.60. It has a 2.997 liter inline six, single overhead cam, 2-barrel carbs, kind of stuff we have seen previously in this car. For some reason, those overhead cam inline sixes just work in this body. It was meant to be. Double wishbone front, double wishbone rear. Pretty complicated suspension setup you got there. Steel monocoque, fiberglass panels. Premium coupe. That's kind of the verbiage I should have been using all along. This is a premium coupe versus just your standard coupe. On the test track, it gets 0 to 60 in 6.5. Competitive, 14.7 quarter mile. And, let's see, decent front rear weight balance. 133 top speed. 1.19 on the skid pad. A little bit slower on the speed, up to speed, but still pretty good. Downforce in the front, just a hint of lift in the rear. Would like to see you balance that out to be downforce front and rear, but it's still pretty good. I have a feeling this one's going to be a rocket around the track. Not the fastest we've seen, but still a pretty fast car. 132.83. So how's it do in the markets? Very good. Very good in track premium, very good in track, and very good in light sport premium. And then, you know, kind of a smattering of the rest of these. Sport budget, super, hyper, sport. So this car kind of lingers towards the bottom of the chart over here. Some of them linger towards the top and middle. Still very good in track premium. As I kind of expected though, pricey car. $17,955 with the 5% markup. This is definitely the kind of car that is in the same price range as the Intrigue Rallye, which is interesting because this is one of the first cars to be in that price range and I think really fit to the theme. This is going to make things really difficult for me moving forward, trying to pick the two that I think are best for this episode. Alright, so now for the hard part, deciding which two. There's one clear to me. Cooper's car was awesome. That is as good, I think, as you could possibly have made that car for this competition. And overall, it's just a really good car. So, the Dominator for sure moves on. Between the rest of them, I think the hardest choice I'm having to make is between the Ambush and the Lintang Sport. The Ambush is a really, really good car in the kind of coupe, standard coupe category. Let's take a look at that one. Just real quickly here. I really like the styling of this car. I really like how cheap it is, and then it had a good track ability. Like I said, it's a very good autocross kind of car. Then when you look at the markets, it's still in the same markets as our car, but if we go back and look at the Lintang, it's more closely priced to the Intrigue. It's also probably a little bit closer in performance to the Intrigue. It's actually significantly better, but it has that premium coupe kind of body. Although I really like this car, and it is a very good car, I don't think it's maybe as good of a car as Cooper's. And if you're going to compare this one to that one, in the fact that they are both premium coupes, then I think his car was just a little bit better. To compare this one to Hazewind Dog's Ambush, his Ambush was a really good standard coupe. And I think it's probably the best standard coupe that I've seen so far. At least as far as today's cars. So although it pains me because this is a really good car, I think I'm gonna pick the Ambush. Yep. As soon as I saw it again, I really like the looks of this car. I like the performance of this car, and it fits with a theme really well. Really good autocross car. Could be a rally car. That's a tough one. It's a really tough one, but those are the two that I'm going to pick. So, congrats to Hazewind and Cooper. Those are my picks for this episode. But you haven't won just yet. You still have to go up against the Falant and the Magpie. And then whatever two we choose next time, and possibly two more past that. I think we still have a few more entries. It looks like I did miss a few. So, yeah, we got some more to go through. But thanks as always for watching. Hope you're happy with what I picked. And I'll see you, probably tomorrow actually, for more reviews.